Right, so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is once again that time of year where we build our team of the season, but first of all, I know, Haaland, yes, he's scored a few goals, he's put the ball in the back of the net a few times, hasn't he? Casemiro, yes, oh, he's tackled a few players, whoop-de-doo. Oh, Martin Odegaard, he looks very creative, doesn't he? Absolutely pathetic. Let's pick a team of players who have been very good this season, deserve their flowers, but won't necessarily get it given the fact that there is more obvious options and more boring options, to be honest. So, basically, I'm going to be doing an alternative team of the season this season, and the criteria for this one is basically I can't pick players from Man City, Arsenal, Newcastle or Manchester United, because I think it's fair to say with the overall team of the season that will be made by the PFA that the team of the season will obviously be massively dominated by players from those four clubs. So yeah, we'll get straight into it. But first of all, subscribe to the channel, do it with absolute immediate effect. Hit that big fat juicy succulent subscribe button because you've been an absolute legend in helping me get to 3,000 subscribers on this channel as soon as we bloody well possibly can. Leave a like rating on the video if you do go on to enjoy it as well, and you know what, fuck it, hit the notification bell while you're at it because you will never miss one of these absolutely phantasmagorical videos. I don't know where I pulled that word out of, but it's the longest word I've probably ever used on this channel, if it's even a fucking word. But yeah, I guess without further ado, we'll get straight into this video now. So yeah, alternative team of the season. Let's go. Starting off with the important decision of the man between the sticks. Obviously, Nick Pope and Aaron Ramsdale are ruled out, which probably would have been the main two options to go for, but I've gone with Alisson. It was between him and Bernd Leno, but I've chosen Alisson simply because I think he stood out like a sore thumb in this really poor Liverpool side from this season, particularly defensively, where they've been absolutely pitiful defensively at times, to be fair, and I think Alisson has bailed them out on a number of occasions, which is shown in this stat. He's top in terms of the goalkeepers for goals prevented in the Premier League this season, preventing 10.08 goals this season. And yeah, overall, in terms of Liverpool, how poor they've been defensively, you know, Alexander-Arnold, who's been, you know, shown to be poor this season, Van Dijk the same, and overall, with that high line, which is very vulnerable, has led to a lot of 1v1 situations for Alisson in goal, which he's dealt with absolutely brilliantly, and like I said in this channel before, I think he's the best goalkeeper in the world at dealing with one-on-ones. Also averaging 1.93 defensive actions outside the box per 90, which puts him in the top 6 percentile in the top 5 leagues for goalkeepers, and completes 46.2% of his launched passes, which are passes longer than 40 yards, putting him in the top 5 percentile for European goalkeepers in the top 5 leagues, which shows even, you know, aside from his shot-stopping ability, he is capable of being a modern-day goalkeeper this season as well in this Liverpool team that has massively struggled. And yeah, like I said, simply put, I think Alisson has massively bailed out Liverpool this season defensively, and yeah, I think has been their best player by some distance this season, even how poor they've been this season defensively. Now onto right back, there's not been a whole host of options I could have gone for in terms of the full back positions, but I've gone for Kenny Tete of Fulham. I think is having a solid enough season, to be fair, at right back. 4.54 tackles and interceptions per 90 puts him in the top 6 percentile for fullbacks in the top 5 leagues, and he's also in the top 2 percentile for dribblers successfully tackled with a rate of 77.8%, which just shows how sturdy he's been defensively for Fulham in this team. And yet overall, I think him and Anthony Robinson, you know, as fullbacks, in terms of executing perfectly what Marco Silva wants for fullbacks in his system, in terms of playing the elbow tactic, and yet just doing what Marco Silva asks defensively and offensively as well. I think him and Robinson have been important players for Fulham this season in the success they've had this season, and obviously Fulham are having a really good season given the expectations we had for them at the start of the season. And I think in terms of the right backs at our disposal for building this team of the season, I think Kenny Tete is the one that stands out, and I think that he does deserve a place in this team for the season he's had for Fulham. The first centre back we've gone for in this back four is Ben Mee, and in terms of his role in this Brentford team, it's obviously to be aerially dominant, which of course Brentford do like an aerial duel, and Ben Mee excels in that, winning 3.58 aerial duels per 90, putting him in the top 2 percentile for centre backs in the European top 5 leagues. And not only that as well, does make himself an aerial threat from set pieces as well, like, you know, Ethan Pinnock and Christopher Ayer, for example, which a Brentford centre-back does love to get involved aerially from set pieces, and he's got himself 3 goals from those situations. And not only that as well, he's a leader obviously, and yeah, overall has contributed massively to the success of Brentford this season, has been a very good signing for them, and has been an ever-present in this Brentford team this season, starting every single game bar one, and overall has been a very sturdy piece of business and has been very consistent for Brentford this season, which is exactly what you expect from someone like Ben Mee over the course of a season. So yeah, deserves his place in this team. And partnering Ben Mee is one that, as a Chelsea fan, I'm going to take full pride in, because it's the only positive we can get from this absolutely drab season. Thiago Silva going in this team, obviously been injured recently, but he's played enough games to be considered for this team, and overall I think has stood out like a sore thumb, especially once again, like I say, for Liverpool in the Chelsea team, who has struggled defensively at times this season. He's in the top 14 percentile for dribblers successfully tackled compared to centre-backs in Europe's top 5 leagues with 72.7%, and overall his leadership ability and just how well he reads the game, and just considering as well He's 38 years of age, and I still think he's 100% top 3 centre-backs in the world of football right now. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's a Rolls Royce of a centre-back, and my God, if we got this guy in his prime, we'd be absolutely laughing for the next 5-6 years overall. And yeah, like I said, has been probably our player of the season in a season where we've been absolutely horrendous. He's really been one of the ones that stepped up to the plate and yet played really well, and I think he deserves his place in this team for how well he's done for this Chelsea team, which has massively struggled this season, similar to Alisson's case with Liverpool. On to left back, a similar case, like I said, for Kenny Tete. There wasn't a whole pool of options to go for, but I've gone for Pervis Estupiñán, who I think has been quite solid for Brighton this season. 3.79 tackles and interceptions per 90, 2.77 shot creating actions per 90, which is massively impressive given the fact he's a left back obviously, and 1.48 key passes per 90 puts him in the top 13 percentile for fullbacks in Europe's top 5 leagues, which shows obviously how positive he's been in possession, which obviously Brighton do want in the possession based style they play, and they've dominated a lot of games this season in possession given how good they've been under Roberto De Zerbi this season and Graham Potter at the start of the season obviously, and plays his role absolutely brilliantly as well, so I definitely do think he deserves a place in this team for that reason, and yeah, almost a player that goes under the radar in comparison to other left backs in the league overall. Now, we're going to go with a 4-4-2 here to just fit 2 strikers up front. To be honest, we're going to go with 2 centre midfielders, a 6 and an 8. The 8 we're going for is Alexis McAllister, another Brighton representative in this team, and deservedly so. He's been absolutely unbelievable this season for Brighton. McAllister playing as a deep line playmaker for Brighton in the Premier League this season, averaging 3.26 shot creating actions per 90, also averaging 1.92 progressive carries per 90, and a pass completion ratio of 85.6%, which, you know, shows his abilities in possession, which, like I said, for a team like Brighton who do want to dominate the ball and do dominate the ball very often, he's obviously been massively impressive in this Brighton team this season from that role. And not only that as well, has contributed in front of goal as well, scoring 8 goals from that deep line playmaker position as well, and overall, at 24 years of age, is more than likely going to get his move to a so-called bigger club this season, even though I think Brighton have been absolutely one of the best teams in the league this season with how they've performed. And yeah, McAllister, obviously a World Cup winner as well recently with Argentina just gone by, and yeah, I think he's an absolutely brilliant footballer and will be a great signing for a lot of Premier League clubs and clubs abroad as well. So I think Alexis McAllister has been one of the best midfielders in the Premier League this season and definitely a shoe-in for this team. Right, I feel dirty, but Moises Caicedo is not in this team, and look, you guys will understand how much I rate and love Moises Caicedo, but I just had to go with João Palhinha in this team, who I think has been an absolute brick wall in this Fulham team this season, and alongside Mitrovic has been the main reason for Fulham's success this season. 5.36 tackles and interceptions per 90, which puts him in the top 1 percentile in holding midfielders in the top 5 European leagues, which is just absolutely outrageous to be honest. And his defensive stats beside that stat as well are absolutely outrageous as well, but I don't even feel the need to actually mention them because of how good that stat is, and just, you can see from the eye test as well, you don't even need stats to prove it, how good this guy is and how solid this guy is in terms of his defensive output, and has been absolutely phenomenal in this Fulham team this season, in that 6th position, just mopping up for Fulham, and yeah, in my opinion, has to be in this list, one of the best holding midfielders in the Premier League this season, and yeah, unfortunately for Caicedo, just misses out because of that Palhinha and McAllister, 6 and 8 pivot. I've just realised, I don't know why I've said 4-4-2, because I'm going with a 4-3-3, which does mean we have a number 10 position, which does of course mean that James Maddison inevitably gets into this team. 24 starts for Leicester this season, 9 goals and 6 assists, and simply put, he's been Leicester's main player, if not only player this season, and if it wasn't for James Maddison's presence in this Leicester team this season, God knows where they'd be, probably at the bottom of the league. Absolutely everything in terms of Leicester's chance creation goes through Maddison this season. 2.37 key passes per 90, 4.24 passes into the final third per 90, and 5.51 progressive passes per 90 as well. And yep, like I said, overall, Maddison has been incredibly creative for Leicester this season, has really carried Leicester on his back and taken the initiative which we wanted to see from Maddison over the years in the somewhat inconsistency he showed in recent years, but this season he has really showed he's capable of dominating games and carrying a team on his back, and yet Maddison has been absolutely ridiculous this season, and to be honest, arguably gets into the team of the season without the criteria we've gone for in, excluding the top 4 teams this season. He's been that good for Leicester. Now, right wing, Solly March. Imagine saying this to Brighton fans a few years ago, or even a year ago, that Solly March would get into a Premier League team of the season, but he's really earned it. 7 goals and 7 assists this season in that newly found right wing role that De Zerbi has deployed him in this season. And yep, he's just been massively impressive in this Brighton team this season, not only in terms of the fact that he's well capable of, taking on this man, averages a 51% take on success ratio, putting him in the top top 19 percentile for wingers in the top 5 European leagues. And not only that, he offers his defensive output as well, 2.49 tackles and interceptions per 90, which, is very good for a right winger. And he's in the top 5 percentile in the top 5 European leagues for tackles in the final third this season for Brighton. Obviously, he loves a cross as well, playing on that right hand side and being left footed, which means he's able to cut inside and cross, which has been massively effective for Brighton scoring goals as well. And overall, I think he's one of the perfect examples to show how good of a job De Zerbi has done at Brighton so far this season, given how good Solly March has been this season and how much he's improved over the last year as a footballer overall. So I think in conclusion, definitely deserves his place in this team, and yeah, Solly March has been a really good player this season and has really impressed me from what I've seen of him. On the left hand side, we continue our Brighton dominance with Kaoru Mitoma. What an absolute baller this guy is, just a complete winger and exactly everything you want from a left winger overall. 7 goals and 4 assists in 17 starts for this Brighton team this season, which shows obviously he's getting output in terms of in front of goal. 5.47 progressive carries per 90, which does put him in the top 5 percentile in the top 5 European leagues. He's also in the top 4 percentile for carries into the penalty area per 90, averaging 2.98, which just shows how good he is in terms of carrying the ball forward and dribbling and beating his man down that left hand side. And like Solly March as well, does like a tackle in the final third. He's in the top 15 percentile for tackles in the final third, which shows the effort that these Brighton wingers are putting in out of possession as well as in possession. And just in terms of as well, I went to the Chelsea and Brighton game last weekend. I saw Mitoma and obviously Solly March as well in person, and Mitoma is one of those players, when you watch him in person, he's just absolutely magical. He lights up the field of play when he gets the ball, and yet is just so silky, and definitely will be one of the elite level wingers in the Premier League in years to come if he continues on the right track. So yeah, Mitoma definitely deserves a place in this team, has once again shown how good of a job De Zerbi has done this season in his improvement this season and his emergence this season overall. And yeah, what a wonderful footballer Kaoru Mitoma is, and yeah, definitely has potential to be one of the top class wingers in the world given his ability. And right, completing the team, right, I could have gone for Ollie Watkins, but I just think that obviously he's only really hit the ground running in the last few weeks since Unai Emery took over, so I don't think he's done it over the course of the full season necessarily. And it was obviously between two. It's between Harry Kane and Ivan Toney, and I'm going to go with Harry Kane because I just think he's been absolutely ridiculous this season. 23 goals for Spurs this season in a Spurs team that have really struggled. He's really carried this Spurs team on his back and is probably the only reason why Spurs are actually in a legitimate top 4 race this season. And I think given the fact that how ridiculous Haaland's been in terms of his output in front of goal, 23 goals would actually win the Golden Boot in a lot of seasons in the Premier League history already, with 7 games to go for Harry Kane. He's also averaging 4.68 progressive carries per 90 and 3.57 shot creating actions per 90, which shows that he is, actually dropping deep and getting involved in build-up play for Spurs, which shows how outrageous as well 23 goals is this season overall. And look, I don't even feel like I need to talk about Harry Kane for too long because we all know he's one of the best strikers in the world, and yet this season has been absolutely brilliant for Spurs in a team, as I said, for Spurs that have massively struggled this season, and he goes up front in this team. But I just want to talk about Ivan Toney for a minute as well because he has been absolutely brilliant himself this season. 18 goals and 4 assists for this Brentford team, which, like I said, once again is probably going under the radar given how insane Haaland's numbers have been in terms of goals. Not only that as well though, similar to Harry Kane, offers other things besides the goals as well. 1.74 passes into the final third per 90 puts him in the top 11 percentile for strikers in the top 5 European leagues. 1.27 tackles and interceptions per 90 shows that off the ball he's working as well, and 3.63 aerials 1 per 90, which obviously for Brentford is important because they do love an aerial duel. So yeah, Ivan Toney I think definitely deserved a mention in this team for how good he's been this season, and hopefully the inevitable ban he'll get for that whole betting scandal won't be too long and we get to see Ivan Toney on a football pitch on a consistent basis because he is an absolutely brilliant striker in the making. And yep, I guess that'll bring us to the end of this video. Leave your team down in the comment section below if you think that I'm wrong with any of these selections. Let me know in the comment section below as well. And yeah, like I said at the start of the video, leave a like on the video. It would be absolutely massively appreciated, and also if you could subscribe to the channel as well, that would also be hugely appreciated. And yep, I'll see you guys in my next video, and yeah, chat to you later.